And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, friends and family. We are here. We are building the board. My name is Quentin Crisco. I am joined by Steve Letizia at CFC Bears on Twitter. Steve, how are you doing this evening?
Doing good, doing good. Excited to talk combine. It's my favorite time of the year as a draft person. The combine is like Christmas, or like maybe like a lesser holiday, and then draft day is Christmas. But this is definitely the most exciting time of the year. So I'm really pumped to kind of dive into all these players.
Yeah, I know. I'm actually bummed that I can't work from home every day this week because
Yeah,
like
right.
I want to be able to just watch the combine every day. But
Benefits of working. I work from home full time, so don't tell my boss. I doubt he's listening to this, but I'm going to be watching the combine pretty extensively on Thursday and Friday.
right. But so we are recording this now. This will be released tomorrow on Wednesday. I forgot what day it was for a second. To give you guys some ideas going into the combine of, who are we watching for to surprise, to have the best performance, to who does this matter for, right? So we're going to go through some positions here tonight and talk through those three topics. And if you haven't checked them out, Steve wrote two outstanding articles over at ontapsportsnet.com about this very topic. You can find him on his Twitter page, the OnTap Sportsnet Twitter page, or on the OnTap Sportsnet website, where he writes through all these different positions and guys to watch for all these different topics. But Steve, let's start with the defense. And the way I see it going, like I think we each pick a guy who, for each topic, I don't think we can kind of skip over some of the positions that might not be as big as Bears needs, but defensively, right? The top of the Bears needs is edge rusher. Who do you see being the best performer at edge?
So I like this edge class a lot. We'll just start like with that a little bit because there's a lot of different options you can go here. I think if I'm just picking the guy who I think is going to be the best performer, this is not necessarily the guy I like the most. The guy I think is going to really blow up this combine is Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M. I have him as an edge rusher. I know some people see him more as like an interior defensive lineman. Regardless of where you have him, and regardless of what your opinion of his tape is, I tend to be lower on his tape than the consensus, I would say. But regardless of what you feel about him, there's no denying the dude's a freak athlete, like 6'6", 290 pounds, really long, lanky. I mean, he's listed at 290 pounds. He weighed in, I think, 281 at the Senior Bowl, so he's a big dude, but he does not look like that at all. I thought if you watch him, you think he's 6'6", like 260, 270, but he's all 280, 290. And the guy he moves differently. So this is a guy. I mean, like this whole NFL draft process is made for Shamar Stewart to go to this combine, test as an elite athlete, and go way higher than he probably should. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of him. I think if he tests the way he is going to test, I think you really have to start talking about him as in play for the Bears. Again, not what I would do, but if he tests like everyone thinks he's going to test, he's going top 15, potentially top 10. So that's the guy that I'm kind of keeping an eye on a little bit. I'm going to keep watching his tape because, like I said, I really want to like him. He's a player I want to like, and I did like him months ago when he was more of like a day two, maybe late first round guy. I was like, yeah, this guy's got a lot of potential, but he's risen into territories that I feel a little uncomfortable drafting him, and I think that's not going to stop with this combine. So I'm definitely going to be watching him.
Yeah, I think that's a great pick. I think that's probably the best pick here. But I mean, I'm just gonna I haven't dove into the edge class like you have, so I'm going with the obvious choice. Abdul Carter is going to put on a show.
Yeah, well, he said he's not going to test is the only thing.
Oh, did he? Oh, then I'm going Mike Green. I'm going Mike Green.
Mike Green, also a good choice.
Because he has a lot. Like he needs to make teams look past the off-field issues, right? And he has the physical abilities to really do that and really shock people at the combine. I'm kind of thinking he's going to make some tough decisions for people.
Yeah,
but go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say we know the NFL is always looking for excuses to overlook off the field concerns, and running a 4.40 at 250 pounds is definitely gonna make them a little bit easier to overlook some pretty serious off the field issues.
Yeah. Now, Steve, who's your biggest riser at the edge position?
So Shamar Stewart, I wrote in my article as the best performer. In my article, I wrote Jordan Birch as my biggest riser. I'm going to let people go to the article to read that. I'll try and talk about other people. I don't want to just copy what we wrote in the article. So I have a couple other guys. Braden Swinson from LSU is a prospect that I really love, and it seems like he's starting to get a little bit more hype now. He just went from the PFF. PFF just had him at 185. They put him up to 48 the other.
Thanks to you.
Thanks to me, not to brag or anything, but I mean, it was ridiculous. But it seems like everyone's kind of catching up with him, and I think he's going to do really well. Another guy, he actually kind of reminds me a little bit of James Pearce. If you don't get James Pearce, in round one, he would be kind of your target in round two. Another tall guy, lanky guy, long guy, he's probably only around 250 pounds, could probably add some weight, but he's still a pretty good edge setter despite not being the biggest. And he's got the frame to add weight, which is only going to help that. He's a speed rusher. He's not super bendy, though. Just like James Pearce isn't really bendy, at least not super bendy. Braden Swinson's kind of the same way, but I think he's going to run a really fast 40. I think that's really going to help him. And then just another guy, just real quick, is Jared Ivey from Ole Miss. Is another guy I really like. Kind of in the more of the vein of Shamar Stewart, bigger guy, about 285. Maybe he's an interior guy. But I saw a guy who was really athletic on tape for a guy that size. So I think his individual numbers might not jump out at you, but his RAS score, his weight adjusted and everything is going to look pretty good. So those are two guys I'm really thinking are in that day two, maybe round three range, who could possibly get into potentially late first round if they perform really well.
Now, for this position, like I said, I haven't watched edge that extensively yet. It's going to be one of my later ones because Steve and Tom are handling that position for the most part there, but I'll still grade it. It'll just be late in the process. So I'm just going to ask you, is Oluwafemi Oladejo a candidate for biggest riser?
Yeah, I'm actually glad you brought him up because interestingly, Mel Kiper had him in a first round pick in his mock that he released, I think, today, which was the highest I've ever seen him. So I think that it kind of answers your question. Yeah, absolutely a riser. He's very interesting because he played off, kind of like Abdul Carter. He played off-ball linebacker for 3 years, and then this was his first year playing edge. And there were ups and downs with his tape. He didn't, if you look at his advanced stats or his PFF grades, they don't really jump out at you. But the flashes were really there of really good hand technique, really good athleticism, obviously, for him to develop into a pretty good edge rusher. So if you can be patient with him, yeah, I think that there's definitely something there, and I think he will definitely rise. He'll have a big week for sure.
Okay, good to know. I was on the right scent there
for sure. I'm glad you brought him up because I saw him right after I mentioned Jared Ivey. I was like, oh, that would have been a good one to mention too.
Yeah. Now, who do you have for most to prove at edge rusher?
Yeah, so I had Nick Scourton in my article. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. We don't know. His 2023 tape was really good. His 2024 tape was a little down. He doesn't seem like he's an elite athlete, but he needs to test at least, as a good athlete. It's a position, edge rusher, maybe more than any other position, is a position where athleticism is really, really matters. All the top edge rushers in football are elite athletes. So even if he's just an okay athlete, that's really not that good. He really needs to just kind of surprise some people. Another guy, just so I don't repeat my article, is Ashton Gelati from Louisville. He has a really good tape. This guy knows how to rush the passer. Like, there's no question about that. It's, again, what is his ceiling? I don't think he's a great athlete. I'm hoping he comes to combine and surprises a little bit. But that is really this is a really big week for him. He can win, he can earn a lot of money. He can also lose a lot of money this week. If he's also potentially got shorter than average arms. So if he's, got short arms and is only an average athlete or potentially even worse, then we're talking about a day 3 pick. But I think he has the tape of a day 2 pick, and I'm hoping he can kind of solidify that.
Okay. Now, for me, I'm going to go with one that's a little more mainstream, but I think it is very important, and that's James Pearce. I think, and this comes down to one test, really. It comes down to his agility testing. I think if he nails the agility testing, he's going to go in the top 10. If he doesn't, he might fall for, I don't know how long. But I think it's really important for him because we're like Mel Kiper's mock today. He had him fall into the second round. There are off-field concerns with him, and this is speculation on my part, And after discussing it with some other, avid Bears fans and being like, what do we think? Like, it's reading to me like the off-field issues are more about weight room, film, putting the time in, putting the effort in. Because when you watch the tape, you see like that guy is physical, that guy has no problem with contact, and he is hustling everywhere. So it feels to me like some of the issues might be more what happens between game days. Like how much effort is there going on there? And to me, the agility testing is a great gauge for that. It's not even about his bend or his agility as much as how much work did he put in.
Yeah, that's a good way to put that. Yeah, have you trained for this? You have the answers to the test already. Are you
Right.
like looking at them and like, yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, that's a really good one because I mean, the interviews too for him, for a guy like that, like we don't see all that stuff, but that's arguably more important than all this on-field stuff. And then the 3-cone drill. What are you going to get? Are you going to get close to that 7 seconds? Are you going to be a 7.2, or are you going to be a 6? Surprise people, get a 6.8, 6.9 in there. That's going to be really, really important.
Now, Steve, in your article, you broke it down defensive tackle between 3 techniques and nose tackles. Do you want to talk about both, or do you want to jam them into one? I'm fine with talking about both if you
want. Let's talk about both of them. I think because this is such a deep D tackle class. That's the right reason I did it. If it was just a normal D tackle class, I probably only would have had it in one. But there's so many guys I wanted to mention. I was like, I'm just going to break it up into different sections.
I feel that. So let's start with 3 technique. Who do you have for best performer at 3 technique?
So I had Walter Nolen in my article. I'll mention him just briefly because I'm not a big fan of his tape personally. I think he's got all the potential in the world, but his tape is just technique-wise is rough.
It's messy.
But the guy's an elite athlete.
Violent, but it's messy.
Yeah, it's messy. It's a very messy tape, but he's a really good athlete. It's obvious on tape, and he's going to make a lot of money this week. So I think he's the best performer. If I had to pick a guy just not in my article, I think I'm going to go with Darius Alexander from Toledo. I really like this guy's tape, and he's a really good athlete. I found out later after I really studied him that he's 25 years old, which kind of dampens my opinion on him. But on draft day, but as a prospect, the guy's just really good. I think he's going to come in and test really, really well at a good size too. We have Nolan's going to test well, but he's 290 pounds. Alexander's 300 plus and 6'4", so he's going to test really well at a good size. So I'm really excited to see what he can do. He could also be a biggest riser too, because although he has kind of started to rise upwards pretty substantially.
Yeah, I just realized he was 25 or going to be 25 yesterday, and I was like, that explains it.
Big bummer.
That explains it because his tape he's a game wrecker.
Yeah.
The bowl game against Pitt, he was just kicking everyone's ass. Like we're not just talking about the lower conferences. Like he's a game wrecker on the college level. Now, for me, for best performer as a 3 technique, I think Omar Norman Law is going to blow the doors off the place. I mean, he's the most twitchy, explosive defensive tackle I've watched in this class, and it's like bar none, really. Like he has that disgusting burst that every team craves. Now, he's only played about 5 rushing snaps in his entire career, but that's an exaggeration. But as a pass rusher, he is juiced up. He can do just about, like, he can run stunts, he can hop gaps, he can shoot the gap. There's so much to his game athletically that is really impressive. And this is the setting that a player like that shines in.
For sure. That's definitely a good one.
Yeah. Now, for 3 technique, who do you have as your biggest riser?
Yeah, so I had TJ Sanders in the article. I think I'm just going to stick with him because I really want to talk about him. I loved TJ Sanders' tape at South Carolina. I thought it was really, really good. He's a little bit underweight. I'm not going to say undersized because he is about 6'4", but he's only 285 pounds. He's 285 pounds at the Senior Bowl. I'm hoping he can get to that 290 pound range for the combine here. And if he does what I think he can do at a little bit higher weight, like 290, maybe even 295, and then still test as an elite athlete, I think he's going to solidify himself as maybe late first, but at least early second round draft pick, because the tape is really good. The guy is explosive. The guy uses his hands well. His lateral agility is really good. He knows how to rush the passer. I was just watching Armand Membao yesterday, a couple days ago, and I was watching against South Carolina, and I just kept on like glancing over because Sanders was beating the left guard, pretty badly and getting sacks, and I was it just reminded me how much I liked him the first time I watched him, because it has been a few months since I did my my video on him. I was like, man, this guy's gonna be really good. I think he's gonna be the guy who kind of solidifies himself after this combine. But man, there's no wrong. Like all the guys have mentioned, I'm like, all those guys are really, really good football players.
Yeah,
it's such a good D tackle class.
Yeah. For this one, I'm gonna go with JJ Pegas. He's different. Like he's, I mean, he's what's his name? Walter Nolen's teammate, and has a lot of the same issues as Walter Nolen, where it's just like everything is sloppy and like there's questions all over the place, but there's no questions about the way he moves. And I think he is gonna jump up some boards because of it, just based on, my eyes just saw what that dude did physically, and that is hard to forget.
Another good one. I just remember him playing off the edge, getting some cross chops off the edge at 320 pounds. And also another guy, he also has, they use him as a short yardage back. Like the guy is athletic. That's definitely a good one.
Yeah. Now, for this last one for 3 technique, most to prove, who are you going with?
Ooh, I think I'm going to stick with it because it's a name that all Bears fans know, Mason Graham. This one's interesting because Mason Graham's tape is really good. There's no denying that. I have questions about his overall athleticism. I don't really care what his overall athleticism is, because I think he's a good football player. So I'm almost kind of hoping that he doesn't really do that great at the combine, and teams draft Shamar Stewart and Michael Williams over Mason Graham, and Mason Graham's available at 10. Because that seems like a dream scenario for the Bears. But I think there are legitimate concerns about, his athleticism, his arm length too. I think is a big one at the weigh-ins and everything. Like, how long is he going to be? Is he going to be over 33 inches? I think all of that kind of plays into his evaluation. And even if I'm not hoping he does poorly, but if he does, he's on the Bears' radar. But at the same time, if the guy is not that athletic and has short arms, that does limit his ceiling as a pro. There's no denying it. He could have the greatest tape in the world, but he'd still, he could be a good football player despite those things, but it does lower his ceiling a little bit. I'm still fine with taking that 10, because if you get, just a multiple time, a pro bowler here and there at pick 10 rather than an all pro, that's okay. I'm okay with that in my book, but it'll let us know kind of where his ceiling is at based on this testing. So I think he really has a lot to prove. And if he doesn't, he could fall down to 10. If the Bears don't pick him, maybe he even falls down to like 15 or so if he doesn't really put up the numbers that other guys are putting up, especially if Nolen and some of these other guys we mentioned really blow up all this testing. They could potentially jump him, even if I don't agree with it. I want to get that caveat in there as well.
For me, I don't know. I'm stuck between 2 guys, and one of them was a guy you talked about in TJ Sanders, where I see the athletic flashes, but I come away with some questions about his burst. That's not always there. Like, it's there. Like, I really see it in flashes only, and I need to see that a little more. And I need some more verification on that athletic ability. And if it's not exactly everything it's being sold as, I think he's a guy who can fall. I do like his game. I do think there are some things that will translate even if that athleticism does not check out very well as a run defender and as a hand fighter. Like, there's some stuff to really like in his tape. But I did feel like his athleticism waned at times and made me question, what is the burst there? What is the agility there versus his hop steps were disgusting, right?
Yeah.
Like, his ability to hop from lane to lane and just like completely avoid a blocker and get around them. But is that agility? That's where I'm running into questions with him, where it's just kind of a different aspect, I think. But the guy who I'm the guy who I'm stuck between is him and Derek Harmon, where
Mm.
Derek Harmon is, you can see some of the athletic traits really clearly, but
Yeah.
there are times where it just doesn't seem like it's fully translating, and doesn't seem like it's like there's hesitation in his game. There's some type of block where it's like I'm not getting my full athleticism out. Is that a physical block? Is that a mental block? I think he has a lot to prove up in this because he's a tough analysis for me because my tape grades are coming away pretty clean for him, but I don't feel satisfied from his tape, even though the grades are fine.
Yep. Yeah, both of those are good ones. I think because with TJ Sanders, I have his head in the riser, you have him the most proof, but I completely get where you're coming from, especially a guy with his like profile and size. It's almost like if you're not an elite athlete, what am I going to do with you?
Right. Yeah.
Kind of, and with Harmon, I was debating about going to him as well and most to prove. I do think he is going to test better because I know a lot of people have kind of same questions that you had with his athleticism. But I think there were enough flashes where I think he's going to test better than people think. And I'm hoping he's going to test better. Like you said, I think his tape is really clean. He's my DT2 right now, and if his behind Mason Graham, and if his athleticism checks out, then I'm not going to move him up, but I'm going to feel really good about that evaluation. Then. If he tests even close, he doesn't have to test as good as Walter Nolen. He's just got to be in the same ballpark. And I like Harmon a lot better.
Yeah, no, I think that versatility is bigger with him. But let's move on to that nose tackle spot. Who do you got for best performer at nose tackle, Steve?
Yeah, this one's easy, but I'm going to go with a different one because, again, I've gone with too many people in my article. I mean, the answer is Kenneth Grant from Michigan. The guy's an elite athlete and he's crazy, 6'3", 340 pounds, and he's going to test extremely well. The combine is built for a guy like that. If we're going with someone else, just to be a little bit different from my article, go read my article on OnTap Sportsnet. I'm going to go Alfred Collins. I view him more as a nose tackle, and I'm sorry, but I just took yours because I know you like Alfred Collins.
Oh, it's fine. Go for it, man.
I think this guy's another elite athlete, and he's not being talked about enough in general. I think he's going to test really well. 6'5", 310 pounds, long arms, elite athlete. He's going to test really, really well. And when we're getting into all these nose tackles, we have to take the testing with a grain of salt because I really don't care I want all my players to be more athletic, but in terms of position,
right,
whose testing matters, nose tackle is probably one of the least. But it does separate the guys who are just going to be 2-down run stuffers versus the guys who can be potential 3-down players. And I think Kenneth Grant can be a 3-down player. I think Alfred Collins could also be a 3-down player, and a guy who's not being talked about enough, especially for the Bears. I think he'd be absolutely perfect for the Bears, maybe in round 2.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just following you on this one. I think it's Alfred Collins. I think I am gonna stand alone on this island most likely. I think Alfred Collins is a first round talent. Like I think he's gonna go first round. I look at his frame, his athleticism, and I don't see how he won't. Like Mozzie Smith went first round. It was a similar type profile of that frame, that athleticism. I don't think he is Mozzie Smith. I don't want to sit here and start comparing him to Mozzie Smith because Mozzie struggled, and I did love Mozzie in that draft. But hey, I got a type. I got a type, and he fits it to a T. It's almost like a Jervon Dexter type too, where Dexter blew up the combine as well. I like big, thick frame defensive tackles who can theoretically play both spots and have some serious burst and power to their game. That's what Alfred Collins is. I think he's going to blow up the spot. Now, biggest riser at nose tackle. Who you got?
I had Jamari Caldwell in my article from Oregon. I mean, he's basically he's Kenneth Grant light. I honestly don't think they're, to be honest, in my opinion, not that far off. I think he's really good. I'll go with another guy though. I like Jordan Phillips from Maryland. He's a redshirt sophomore, so not a lot of people expected him to declare for the draft. He did. I think he's really athletic. I think he's another guy who I have him as a nose tackle here. I think he could actually be very interchangeable between nose tackle and 3 technique. He's like 6'1", 6'2", 320 pounds. But I thought he moved really well. He's all projection. I mean, he's had 0 sacks at 3 years. So this is not a guy who's super productive, but I think he's really athletic and is going to do well at the combine and rise up boards a little bit. I know he's at the Shrine Bowl, looked really good there. By all accounts, was one of the best players there. Everyone kind of knew he was going to be one of the best players there, just even before the Shrine Bowl. But I think he's a guy who can really rise up boards. Caldwell's kind of already risen up the boards. He's kind of had his rise already. So I think a guy who's maybe not enough people talking about is Phillips, who can come in and do pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, dude, Jordan Phillips. I mean, I saw that guy squat jump a center into the quarterback, and I was like, "This is fun.
Yeah,
This is fun." He's explosive, man. Caldwell is interesting to me. Like, I want to go watch his Houston tape because I'm getting the feeling as I'm watching Derek Harmon, as I'm watching Jamari Caldwell, that I just hate their defensive line scheme.
Could be.
Like that, there are times where I'm just like, I'm watching Caldwell and I'm like, yeah, you're a good hand fighter, you're a good athlete, but stop magic hands. Like you're not doing anything. Like, and but I don't think he's that player. I think it's the Oregon defense that I just really don't like as I'm getting there.
I watched his Houston tape at the beginning of the year because I did him on like under summer scouting, and if I remember, you're also not like it because I feel like it was very similar. But Houston was playing him on the edge at 340 pounds.
Oh, okay.
He was rushing off, well, not full time, but he was rushing off the edge. He did not play a lot of 0 or 1 technique.
Okay.
He was off the edge and then 5 technique mostly.
That might explain some of my frustration then of just he doesn't play like a nose tackle.
Yeah.
Like so.
He plays it like
Interesting, and I see his traits. Like I'm with you on that. Like I see his traits. I think he should rise. I'm just trying to reconcile where I think he should be with where my gut wants him to be. Like there's like a bit of a struggle internally for me. But this isn't the defensive tackle show. We're bringing that to you guys next week. We're talking about the combine, and for biggest riser, I'm gonna go with Joshua Farmer out of Florida State. I think he has some really nice bursts to his game that is still developing. Instead, like he can just kind of physically toss people around at times, and I think he's going to run well. I think he's going to do really well in the explosiveness testing. He was recruited as an edge rusher, and he's like a nose tackle now. I think he might end up as 3-tech in the NFL, but for college purposes, he was a nose tackle. I think he's going to put together a nice day in Indy.
Yep.
Now, last one for nose tackles, the most to prove. Where are you going with this one, Steve?
I'm going to go back to the article because I think, like I said before, it's nose tackles. So there's not anything you can improve. But one guy really stuck out with this is Deone Walker from Kentucky. I never liked his tape last year. I didn't like his tape this year. But what he does have is size and athleticism. And that's how he wins. And that's it. He doesn't win with technique at all. It's just size and athleticism. The guy is 6'7", 6'8", 350 pounds or whatever. So if you're a guy who doesn't win with technique and has subpar tape and is just a freak athlete with size, I need you to test as a freak athlete with size, because if you test as just an average athlete, then I have no purpose. I have no reason to draft you. Like it's almost like I said, like he could be, if he tests extremely well at that size, he could be a day 2 pick. If he tests average or below average, it's like I'm not even going to draft you. I don't see any reason to have you on my football team because you just don't do anything for me. So I think he might have the most right on him for anyone at the combine.
I mean, I'm 100% with you. I struggled with his tape that I saw last summer. I struggled with his tape that I've watched this winter. And I don't know what you do with him. I'm really not interested in the tape I saw unless he gives me a reason to pull me back in, because it wasn't good enough.
It baffles people. Still have him in like their top 50, top 75, and it baffles me. I just don't understand it.
Yeah, but let's see. I'm gonna go. I'll just stick with that. The only other way I could see going is Kenneth Grant, for some of the same reasons, at best performer. Like
right.
there is an expectation that he's going to do some stupid stuff, and if he doesn't, it's going to cost him money. Like that's about as simple as that, I think.
Yeah, I think every guy we mentioned kind of in that best performer also is potentially the most improved for that same reason, because we're talking about him as best performer because we expect them to test off the charts, and then if they don't, it's like a big red flag. So yeah, I think that's actually a good way to look at it.
Yeah. Now let's kick on over to the offensive side because we, not much of a need at linebacker, cornerback, or safety. If there's any guys you want to highlight, we can bring them up at the end of the show. But
Sure.
let's jump into running back.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you have as the best performer at running back?
So I had Travion Henderson in my article because I think he's going to be pretty explosive. I'm going to go with someone else. Should have had this written up. No, I'll just stick with Travion Henderson because I don't have anyone in front of me. Travion Henderson is getting a lot of hype now as he should because he's a really good running back. But I think he's gonna test really well, especially in like the 40 time. And that's really like the headliner. When you look at people's testings, even if you don't watch it, first thing you look at is the 40 time, and he's gonna post a good 40 time. Would not surprise me if he's in the 4.3s, if not, low 4.4s. I think he'll potentially not do as well in the agilities because I did not see a lot of like wiggle and shiftiness for him, but his straight line speed is really good. And I think he's a guy who's going to run that 40 time and then just be like, peace, I'm done. I'm going to sit out. I'll do the agilities at my pro day kind of thing. But I think he's a really good player. And I think the thing that's overlooked with him is he's a really good receiver, and he's especially a really good pass blocker as well. That obviously is not going to be a big thing, especially the pass blocking at the combine. But I just always like to mention that because I love running backs who can pass block, and it's something I put a lot of value on because if you can't pass block, you're not going to see the field as a running back, as a rookie running back, and you don't have to worry about that with him. So I think not only will he be a guy who can play right away, but he also has the athleticism to do well at the combine.
Now, is there anyone, and I don't have a strong answer for this one because I've watched some of the bigger names, but I think Travion's up there. I might consider Omarion Hampton here just because I think he has such a good athletic all around skill set. But every year there are the Tyrone Tracy's of the world. There are the Isaac Guarendos of the world. Do you have any predictions on who that might be this year? Or do you want to save it for biggest riser, actually?
Well, yeah, we can I got two guys
or jump into biggest riser, I guess.
Both these guys will be kind of along those lines and then also biggest riser. So we'll kind of just jump into there. So I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right. Bazul Tutin from Virginia Tech is the guy who wrote my article. He apparently ran a 4.32 in the preseason. He's going to do really well, especially kind of like Travion Henderson. Going to do really well on the 40. The agilities might not be as good, but I think he'll do really well on that 40. He's just an athletic dude, really just like a one-cut runner, get upfield, outside zone, one cut, just get upfield. And I think he's a really good fit there. Another guy is RJ Harvey from UCF. I think this is another guy who's going to be a big riser. I really loved his 2023 tape when I was watching him because there was some talk of him coming out last year. So I watched a little bit of him last year. I really liked him. Then I, did summer scouting with him because he was on my radar. And then I watched him this year, and I didn't love his 2024 tape as much as I loved his 2023 tape, just because I didn't really have many questions on 2023. I started to question his vision a little bit in 2024, but I never questioned his athleticism. He's not the biggest guy. I think he's only like 5'9", maybe 200 pounds. But I think he's going to do really well and shoot up boards. And I think that's a guy who will be in play for the Bears. The way I look at the Bears in the running back room is you either take Ashton Genty at 10 or you just wait and draft a running back at like 72, pick 100 if you get another pick in there because Omarion Hampton won't be available in the second round, I don't think. I think he will be a first-round pick. And so after those two guys, I think it's a deep class. So I wouldn't use a premium pick on a guy at 39 or 41. Maybe I could be talking to Caleb Johnson, but I'm not as high on him as others. So I think at that point, my plan would just be to wait and get one of those guys at pick 72 or something like that. And I think RJ Harvey is a guy who could be that guy. And I think he's kind of in that early day 3, maybe day 2 kind of range. I think he can solidify himself as a day 2 guy after the combine.
So for biggest riser, RJ Harvey was on my potential names here, as was Devin Neal, because I think very athletic skill set that probably thrives in this environment. But I'm going to go a bit different of a route. I'm going to go with a guy who has some pretty good size, and I think he has some really good agility and some good, I think his long speed is actually pretty pretty good is DJ Giddens at Kansas
Mhm.
State. I think people are going to see his testing and go, this dude rules. And then they're going to watch him try to catch a pass and go, what did I just see? There are some serious, like, what are you doing moments on his tape that are borderline comical.
Yeah.
But, like, athletically, I think he has a lot of what you are looking for an NFL running back.
Yeah. No, that's a good. I mean, DJ Giddens versus Colorado this year was outside of any Ashton Genty tape, was maybe the best game I watched of a running back this year. That dude just was amazing.
Yeah.
And I like what you said about the pass catching. It is an adventure with him. But it's weird because you'll see he'll have just some terrible drops, and it'll look like he has no idea what he's doing. And then the next one he'll catch, it'll be in stride, doesn't lose a step, and just keeps running. So it's like, where did that come from?
Until he steps out of bounds inadvertently with no one near him.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, something like that. Like,
what are you doing?
Yeah, it was very strange. So, but if you're looking for just a 2-down runner,
yeah. Hey, no, I liked a lot of what I saw. It was just like perplexing, but I think he might shine at the combine. Sure. Now, for most to prove, where are you going at running back?
This one's easy for me. It's a guy I really like. It's Damien Martinez out of Miami. I said this when I posted his video, just from a pure running standpoint. So don't take pass blocking, don't take receiving ability. His tape was, I put his tape on par with anyone not named Ashton Genty as just a pure runner of the football. The talent is there for sure. He has vision. He's patient. He's got quick feet in a phone booth, but I question his long speed for sure. I think he's probably going to run in the 4.6s, which isn't that running backs can succeed without elite athleticism. It just talks, again, going back to what I said earlier, just about his overall ceiling as a player. If you run a 4.6, you can still be an NFL running back, but you're not going to be, a Pro Bowl NFL running back. You're just going to be just a guy who can maybe pick up yards. But I do really like him. If he can get into that 4.5s, that'd be a huge win for him. I want to see how he does, on the agility drills and all that stuff. I think he can maybe surprise some people there because I thought he was a little bit more agile. Not that it was going to be an elite trait or anything, but I just want him to be maybe average to slightly above. But he's another guy I really like, especially for the Bears. I think he's a guy who keeps offenses ahead of schedule. He's not going to be a guy who loses yards. He's going to pick up 3-4 yards out of even if he gets hit in the backfield. The guy's contact balance is insane. So I really, really want to see him do well. So we'll see. But I think he's got a lot to prove to me.
So I'm going with Caleb Johnson here.
Mm-hmm. Good one.
And you see a lot of infighting on Twitter already about his athleticism, right? Like some people think he has excellent speed. Some people think he can't break away. Some people like there are a lot of varying takes, which makes me think he has something to prove. Mm-hmm. Like it's for him, it's probably the difference between being a 3rd and 2nd round pick. I think how he runs this week, and that's a big difference. Now, one guy who I do need to ask you about, Steve, because I'm sure you know more about it than I do off the top of your head. I haven't watched his tape yet, but 2 years ago, this guy was a big deal in college football. That's Donovan Edwards.
Oh, yeah. I thought you were going to go in a different direction.
Oh, well, what happened to Donovan Edwards, and what direction did you think I was going to go?
Well, I thought you were going to go Ollie Gordon.
Well, that one I'm curious about too, but like Donovan Edwards is he's front and center on the cover of College Football 25. That's like up in my living room right now.
Yeah.
I've been like sitting here wondering without actually getting to the point of watching his tape yet of like, this guy was supposed to be really good. Yeah. This guy was really good. Was there an injury that I didn't catch or something that happened?
No, he's just not very good. I think he's going to test. I think he's going to go do well at the combine. I think he's athletic. I think he has some of the worst vision I've ever seen of running back. The guy just cannot find a hole to save his life. Never mind. I'll leave that one alone. But the guy, the vision was just not there. So he's constantly just running in the back of his offensive lineman, missing, running lanes. It just was very frustrating. But I think he's going to be really athletic, so this could be a time for him to kind of make people forget about that a little bit if he runs a 4.4 at pretty good size and stuff like that. So this is a good event for him.
Yeah, I mean, so in 2022 is Michigan's O line just that good when he averaged 7 yards a carry, like that he just didn't really have to read anything out, like
Yeah, well, yeah, it was the guys getting to the second level and just creating lanes and letting him go for 70
okay,
yards untouched.
interesting.
Eventually, a blind squirrel finds a nut kind of situation.
Yeah. Now, so you brought him up too, Ollie Gordon. What? Because I've been hearing about his name for years now,
Yeah,
right? And, like he had that like last year, I guess not even, I guess just last like 2 and 23, 1,700 rushing yards, 21 touchdowns was
yeah.
his big season. But this year kind of came back down to earth, I believe. Was he the one who Mike Gundy was talking about when he was like talking about drinking and driving, or
But
was that
yeah,
Ollie
might have
Gordon?
been. I think he had an injury. I'm pretty sure. I can't say that for certain, but he had an injury. I also think the workload just kind of caught up to him. I think he had a big
Mm,
workload.
yeah.
And I think he was unlike Donovan Edwards, who was like pretty athletic. He was never super athletic to begin with. He was more technical as a runner. But then once you start wearing down a little bit and you're not an elite athlete, I think it just kind of caught up to him. But with the caveat is I have not watched a ton of him, so I can't say for certain.
Okay. And I just Googled it. I don't feel guilty about it now. He did have a suspicion of DUI. So I
Okay.
wanted to clear that up. If I bring it up, I got to say whether it actually happened or
Yeah,
not.
yeah.
Because
We're
if
not
it
spreading
didn't,
false rumors on the
yeah.
BTP.
Yeah. Now, let's move on to, do you want to talk receiver? Do you feel like there's much of a need to talk receiver?
Maybe we don't have to talk about 6 guys, but maybe just if we have a guy, maybe it's just like 2 guys I want to mention, and then we can kind of move
Go
on.
for it. I haven't watched receivers yet, so I've been focused on trenches only. So go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, just full disclosure for everyone listening, wide receiver is not either of our position on the building the board project, but I'll do my best. I have watched a few guys. I've not watched all of them, but a few guys I've watched that I've liked. I think the combine is going to be big for them. Number one is Jalen Noel from Iowa State, kind of the other wide receiver on Iowa State. Jaden Higgins kind of gets all the talk because he put up the big numbers, but I think Jalen Noel is actually a better wide receiver. And I guess I could kind of talk about both of them because I think Jaden Higgins, this is a big day for him too because I think he needs to. I don't think he's a good athlete, so he needs to go into this combine and test average at least to hopefully slightly above average. But back to Jalen Noel, I think he's a really good receiver, a slot guy, but really quick feet, swings his hips, gets in and out of his breaks really nicely. I thought he struggled at the catch point somewhat. He flashed a little bit, but that's my biggest issue. If he was good at the catch point, we'd be talking about potentially a first round guy. That's kind of his biggest issue. A little bit undersized, but not crazy. I think he was like 5'10", 195 pounds, so not super small. But I think he's going to do well at the combine, but not really blow up anyone out of the water. Like he's not going to run the 4.3s. I think he'll be in the mid 4.4s. Have good at the agility drills is really where he's going to shine. I think he's really quick in and out of his breaks. So he's a guy I really want to watch. And then Jack Beck from TCU is another guy I've watched who I really liked his tape. He's very interesting because he was I believe either a 4 or 5 star recruit, went to LSU and led the LSU in receiving when Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas were all freshmen. He was in that same freshman class as those guys and led them in receiving, then transferred to TCU. Kind of had a few down years, but then had a really good year this year. But I have questions about his overall athleticism too. So I really want to see how he does because if he tests better than expected, that's a day 2 prospect for sure.
Okay. And then at tight end, do you want me to just kind of run through a few of them? Because I know you said that
I haven't watched any tight ends.
Yeah.
This is
So
all you.
best performer, I did Colson Loveland. I mean, honestly, I'm best performer. You can go Tyler Warren, you can go Colson Loveland, you can go Harold Fannin Jr. All 3 of them are freak shows athletically. I went with Colson Loveland because I expect his jumps to be just wild. He's got such springy athleticism. But that allowed me to go with Harold Fannin Jr. for my next one, which is biggest riser. Harold Fannin Jr. was being talked about as like a mid-second round pick about a month ago. And now he's being looked at as like a late 3rd round pick. And Maybe there's something off field or something related to that. I don't know. But just based on a tape and athletic profile aspect, this guy should be moving into the top 50, not down to the top 100. Like, there is so much to like on his tape. He's such a different athlete for the tight end position that, like, with how much Shanahan offenses have taken over the league, the guy's physical. The guy is willing to be physical. He doesn't know how to block really in line. I don't think you can really ask him to be an inline blocker, but with the Shanahan offense, getting him in there as a tight end / F back, like, that could be really interesting and really fun. And the guy led the country in catches and receiving yards this year amongst wide receivers, tight ends, anyone who catches passes.
Yeah.
Was ahead of Tyler Warren, and Tyler Warren broke some records for Power 4 conference tight ends. Like, Harold Fandon broke a lot of records this year on his own, but he in the MAC, it didn't go as noticed. And the thing that was shocking, against 2 Power 4 conference opponents, he put up nearly 300 yards.
Wow.
Like, he was just wrecking people. So I think he's going to be a riser this week. I don't know how he's fallen this far. And most to prove, I'm going with Mason Taylor out of LSU. This is Jason Taylor's son, Hall of Fame defensive end for the Miami Dolphins. Jason Taylor. Yeah, he's athletic. He's big. He can move.
Yeah.
Dare I say, he does not like contact.
I don't want him then.
I'm very conflicted on him. Dane Brugler has like a top 50 grade on him. He has some really nice athletic traits, but like, the way that he goes into contact really puts me off. And if he is going to go anywhere near where some of the big names are projecting him to go, he needs to be an athletic freak. He needs to prove it this week, because I don't think his tape supports it. So you need to know that upside is there for him physically, for him, that there's no illusions there. There's no anything. He is a different athlete. You need to know that coming out this weekend if you're interested in him on day 2, in my opinion. But moving along into the trenches, at offensive tackle, what are you thinking for best performer?
Yeah, I had Josh Connolly in my article, which I stand by. I think he's going to be, if not the top performer, he'll be up there for sure. I'm going to switch it up, though, and go Armand Membao from Missouri, because I started watching him a little bit more these last couple weeks, and I really like him, and he moves really well. I think he's going to kind of solidify himself as he's going to put himself in contention for top offensive lineman because of his athleticism. He won't be my top offensive lineman. That's going to be Will Campbell. But I'm just saying he'll be that talk is going to start after the combine. I think he's already, pretty solidly in that first round, top half of the first round even. So he's not, I wouldn't put him as a riser because he's not going to rise up the boards too much, but I think he's going to be an overall performer. And then that conversation will start having, because we're in the time of the year where people just love to overthink things. And I think putting someone over Will Campbell is definitely overthinking things. But I do really like Armand Membao a lot. And I, like I said, I just started kind of diving deeper into him the last couple of weeks. And I always start any time I watch at least one game of their 2023 tape before watching their 2024, because I want to get a baseline to see kind of how they've progressed. And I turned on his 2023 tape expecting to not see much, because kind of has risen. This year it wasn't really expected to be that much, and I thought his 2023 tape was pretty good. And I thought he moved really well, even better in 2023 than he did in 2024. It looks like he put on a little bit of weight, good weight, not anything to be concerned about, but to help himself anchor a little bit better, which I think has helped. But he moves really, really well on pulls and everything, and getting him out into space. And he always connects. Like he never, maybe not always, but usually connects with smaller defensive backs. So he's my Connolly and Membao are two guys I think are going to really kind of make a name for themselves.
I think those are the two names to really look at here for best performer. I mean, I think those are I'm with you. I think those are the two that are really going to make noise as far as being like the clear top athletes at the position. If Josh Simmons was testing, I'm assuming he's not. I haven't actually verified that, but torn tendon in October. I don't think he's ready to go out there and stress his body on a 40-yard dash or a 3-cone or anything. I think Josh Simmons should be in the conversation if he were testing, but he's not. So I mean, I think he crushed it there. Now, biggest riser. Where are you going with this one?
We're just doing offensive tackle right now, right?
Right.
Okay. Just I wasn't sure if we were doing offensive tackle or just offensive line. So I had Logan Brown in my biggest riser in the article from Kansas. I think he's a really good athlete. There's no denying that. I think I didn't love his tape. It's kind of all over the place, but I think as an athlete, he's going to do really, really well. Other couple of guys, I had some honorable mentions in there, but I just had a really hard time figuring out who, I had so many names I wanted to mention. But Jalen Travis from Iowa State, I'm going to talk a little bit about him kind of more in depth. I don't know why people aren't talking about him more because his tape is not bad. Well, I mean, he's like pretty much a consensus day 3 pick for, right? I haven't seen anything higher than that. And maybe he does end up on day 3. I'm not advocating for him to be like too much higher than that. But I think if you're trying to get a developmental offensive tackle prospect, like Jalen Travis is your guy. There's a little bit of stiffness to his game. I'm not denying that. So that might hurt him with some of his agility scores and everything. But the guy can move at 6'7" and a half, 340 pounds. Like the guy's a giant and moves extremely well, at least literally. So I think he's going to be really good. And if I'm drafting a developmental offensive tackle prospect, I'm not going to go for the small school guys. I'm not going to name names, but some of those small school guys who you don't know if what they have, they have to put on 20 pounds of weight just to, play in the NFL. This guy's an NFL body. This guy's NFL athleticism. Clean up some of his techniques. Maybe, do something with his hip flexibility. Make him stretch a little bit more. Maybe that'll help. I don't know. But there's something there that you can kind of develop him into an offensive tackle prospect. Another guy, Miles Hinton from Michigan. Another guy that's really, really athletic. There's one play that always sticks in my mind with him against USC. They did a pin pull, get him out in space, and he just wrecked this poor safety or cornerback. I can't remember who it was. But man, the way he moved was really impressive. And he's like a 5th year, 6th year senior. So I understand why people aren't talking about him a lot, but I think another guy who's a kind of day 3 developmental offensive tackle prospect. He might even be a guard too, but I like him too.
Yeah, I'm going with Emory Jones Jr. out of LSU. Guy was a 5-star prospect. He gets outshined by Will Campbell, and his tape is really sloppy. I'll be frank. His right tackle tape is very sloppy, but he has size and incredible athleticism. And once again, that's what the combine is for, right? It's for these guys who are freaky athletes at freaky sizes. I think Emory Jones Jr. is going to really climb up some boards with his performance because it'll just put him on a bit more of a radar of, I didn't realize he was that athletic. Okay, now we're talking. I think that he has a lot of that to his game. And I want to throw an honorable mention to a guy who I haven't watched much of, but I'm taking Dr. Mason West's word at this. And I know that Brandon Thorne just did a film room with him. One of these smaller school guys you're talking about. Charles Grant out of William and Mary. It sounds like he has some really special movement traits. Probably somewhat similar to like Karan Amagaji last year, whereas like the movement is really nice. I don't think he's on the Bears' radar because I don't think you can draft a guy like that 2 years in a row where he's going to go, which is probably like third to fourth round. That's just based on what I've heard. I haven't actually watched and put a grade on him, but I think he deserves a mention because he might make some noise this week.
Yeah, no, he moves really well. There's no denying that. The only reason I haven't watched more of him is because the William and Mary All-22 is, oh god, it's a slog a lot. The cameraman they need to get a new guy in there.
Dude, it's brutal when you hit that. I was trying to watch, who was it? A running back the other day. I think it was DJ Giddens against Tulane. And Tulane's not a small school, right? Like Tulane is like, but whoever was working the camera kept moving it while the run was happening. And I couldn't see where the run lanes were. It's like, stop.
Yeah.
But let's move on to most prove at offensive tackle.
Yep. I'll mention Will Campbell. I have him in my article. Will Campbell, just because the arm length, it's going to be the most talked about thing at the combine. It's interesting, I think his tape is good enough where he can succeed with, maybe not great arm length. But here's the thing about him in terms of the Bears, since this is Bears podcast. Let's say if he measures with 33 and a half inch arms, maybe it's longer than people expected, or even if he hits that 33-inch mark that Rashawn Slater and other guys have gotten to, there's no way he gets to 10 because his tape is so good that okay, this guy's a tackle all the way. He's going top 5. And if he tests below 33 inches, maybe he gets to 10, but do you want to draft a guy at 10 who has 32 and a half inch arms? I don't know. That's kind of where I'm struggling with him, but I think he has a lot to prove there, just on that. If we're talking about more just the overall thing, another top guy is Kelvin Banks. I think he has a lot to prove because his tape, maybe I've been too harsh on him in the past. I didn't love his tape I think he's a solid prospect, but I thought other guys like Mbao, Campbell, Connerly, Simmons all had better tackle tape than he did. But what he does have and does he brings to the table is elite athleticism and movement skills for his size. So he needs to show that at the combine that he has those elite movement skills, athleticism for his size. If he tests like an 8.2 RAS score, it's like, ooh, that's good, but I don't love that. You need to be a 9, 9.5, 10 for if he wants to kind of maintain that first round pick. And then I would totally understand the team taking him in the teens, because you got an elite athlete. There's stuff to work with there, even if his tape is a little bit sloppy at times.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going the same route with a Kelvin Banks Jr. I mean, it's the athleticism is incredible at times, and the balance is an issue at times. And on-field testing, they are going to put him through the ringer on that. They're going to find out how does his core hold up when he is forced to change directions, when he is abruptly, when he is like his ability to move smoothly in the on-field stuff, I think will be very, very important.
Yeah.
Let alone the testing.
The
on-field drills will matter a lot for him. And I think that he has a lot to prove within that. I like his tape more than most from an offensive guard standpoint. But I mean, if he can't prove that he can be a smoother transitioner with his movements, it's a tough sell. Now, another guy who I might mention here is Wyatt Millum. I think he has a lot to prove because people are clearly doubting his athleticism. I liked a lot of what I saw on his tape. I think that there is good enough athleticism there, but he needs to prove it. That's just kind of, what this question is, right? If he proves it, I think we're going to see him move up a little bit. But if he doesn't, he could keep falling like he has been.
Yeah. Interesting. We'll just kind of jumping into offensive guard because I had him at offensive guard, and I think I had him on my biggest riser because I think he is going to show the athleticism. When he gets out on the move, I thought he did show pretty good athleticism, and I think the reason he's falling, like you said, is because people question his athleticism, which I understand because he doesn't look like an elite athlete. He's kind of got he's a bigger guy. He doesn't have like long legs or anything like that. So I understand why people would question his athleticism. But I saw, when he gets on the move, a guy who's a pretty good athlete. So he was in my biggest riser section because I think he's going to kind of prove some people wrong there. Because I really like his tape.
No, I mean, I think we're saying the same thing with a different definition on it, because I do think he will test well enough to be like for him to rise back up, but I think he needs to.
Yes, that's fair.
Yeah. Now, for offensive guard, I'll just stick with biggest riser here. Let's see. I'm gonna go with. I'm assuming Clay Webb got an invite, but
I can tell you,
as long as Clay Webb got an invite,
he did.
I think he's going to surprise people. People are going to go, "Who is that guy?" Now, there's some off-field stuff that you need to sort through with him. It's nothing. I mean, I don't want to say nothing. It's weird. It's weird and different and like bullying related. But it got him to transfer from Georgia as a 5-star center recruit to Jacksonville State, where he played left guard. But the athleticism's there. I think he is going to become known to some people this week.
Yep.
Now, for best performer, where are you going, Steve?
This one's easy. I believe. I think it's Donovan Jackson from Ohio State. The guy's a really good athlete. The guy's a really good athlete. He's gonna weigh in really well, and there's just not a whole lot to say. Ever since I've been watching him for the last 2 years, I thought this guy's a really good athlete, and he's gonna do really well at the combine. I think that's exactly what's gonna happen. Um, and I think he can kind of maybe. I don't know where teams have him. Where do you have him right now? Do you have him a guard or tackle? I think we might have talked about this last time, but I can't remember.
I have him at wherever a team needs him.
Yeah, that's
honestly. Like if you want to see him as a tackle, I think he can be a tackle. If you want to see him as a guard, I think you put him at guard. Like I think his upside is higher at tackle. I think his floor is higher at guard. So like it's kind of both. Like I'm with you. I'm going with him as well. Like I think teams and analysts are going to see his athletic testing this week and go, he's not getting as far as we think he's getting. Like because when you have offensive tackle traits and athleticism traits, you usually don't get out of the first round.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. And the testing will kind of tell you if you have a tackle or if you have a guard too. Well, that maybe not tell you, but it'll help your evaluation. Be like, if this guy tests as a 10 RAS score as an offensive tackle, you're like, okay, well, we got to try it at least.
Yeah.
Then we got guard as a backup plan. So I think he obvious answer at guard with him.
Yeah. Now for most to prove, where are you going at guard?
Two guys, Tyler Booker. Really like his tape. It's a really good tape. In a gap scheme. I think he needs to prove that he has enough athleticism to be a little bit less scheme dependent. Because then you're cutting your board in half. Your potential teams in half if he doesn't test as a good enough athlete to be in different teams. So it's not really. This is more to do with just where he gets drafted, not his positioning in the NFL, everything. Because if he goes to the right scheme in the NFL, it doesn't matter how athletic he is. He's a really good offensive lineman. Just talking more about his draft, where he's going to get drafted. It only takes one team to fall in love with you, and that team can run the scheme that you're good in. But I think he definitely is one. And then Jonas Savaiinaea, who I just wrote an article about this week. I think there's some questions about his overall athleticism as well. I think he's kind of, to me, in that Wyatt Millum section category as well, because I think he is a better athlete than he's given credit for. I've read some scouting reports on him saying he's a straight up bad athlete. I don't think that's the case at all. I just want to see. I think he's a better athlete than he's given credit for. And I want to see just how much of an athlete he actually is. I think it's important for him to show that. And also, kind of like I said with Donovan Jackson, because he's another guy who plays guard and tackle. Do you have the athleticism to play tackle, or are you just a straight guard? I keep going back. Right now, I have him at a guard, but I think he could potentially do both. And if he tests it better athletically than we thought, maybe teams give him a chance at tackle first.
Yeah, I can. I see that. Now I'm with you there. Now for my most to prove, I'm sticking with you with Tyler Booker. I think the first round grades are great until teams realize I don't know if this guy can run wide zone.
Yeah.
And then we're talking about, like, I pulled some data on this going back to, I think it was 2016. Yeah, 2016. There have been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There have been 7 true offensive guards or center guard combos, guys who never played a lot of offensive tackle, to go in the first round.
Yeah.
Only 2 of them had a RAS below 9.
Mm-hmm.
That was Josh Garnett, who did not pan out, and Kenyon Green, who did not pan out.
Yeah, I was going to say he didn't pan out.
So the guys who had the over 9 RAS all panned out.
Yeah.
You go into the second round, you get into the 8 RASs and the 7 and 6 RASs. Like, if Tyler Booker's RAS score is in the 6 range, like Osiris Torrance was, I think he's going before Torrance did. Like, let me be clear. I think he's still a top 50 pick. Yeah. Torrance fell all the way to 59. Yeah. But Torrance was also talked about as a first-round pick at this point.
That's true.
So I think Tyler Booker's tape is a lot cleaner. I think his leadership traits are undeniable. where a gap team will take him in the top probably 40.
Yeah.
But like you said, it just shrinks that pool of teams who are interested, which makes it a lot more variable, a lot more questionable of where will he go. So to me, Tyler Booker is the clear most to prove. Now, one guy I wanted to mention for best performer that I forgot as I was talking, Willie Lampkin is going to be the best performer at interior O-line.
Wait, no, Willie Lampkin didn't get a combine invite.
He didn't get an invite?
Crazy. Oh, crazy! I understand why you said that, because when you said that, I was like, yeah, oh, that's right, that is a good one. And then I thought about it, I was like, wait, no, he's not on here, which because he deserved a combine invite. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, he was All-American. Like, come on. I mean, he's not going to play O-line in the NFL, but like, but I'm rooting for that guy so hard.
Yeah.
But
just back to what you said about Tyler Booker, because I was one of those people who was like, I can't believe, people who, like, when I saw a mock draft that had Tyler Booker at, to the Bears at 39, I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, Tyler Booker has first round tape, like, he's going in the first round. Then I saw your tweet and I was like, that's actually a really good point. Like, I think that makes a lot of sense. And now you kind of shifted me from that Tyler Booker's for sure won't be available at 39 to maybe Tyler Booker potentially will be available at 39.
I'm not
I think it makes a lot of sense.
Will be, but
potentially.
It's in the air. Like, it all it takes is one guy falling and a team passing on Booker for him to keep falling. Like it's not a wild scenario in my opinion. Sure. But are there any other guys you want to mention before we close this thing out, Steve, as like guys to watch for this week for Bears fans or just football fans in general?
A couple more offensive linemen. Now I don't know how these guys are going to test. I just like them, and I think Bears fans should keep an eye on them. Jalen Rivers from Miami, I think, is a super underrated offensive lineman. He played left tackle and left guard for Miami. Actually, kind of went back and forth even mid-game because they had another offensive tackle they wanted to work in there. But I really liked his tape. I think he's another good offensive lineman that you could maybe get a little bit later on. I want to see how he tests. And Gray Zabel, I don't know where exactly you're going to put him, guard, center. Probably not tackle, but guard or center. But I think he's going to be someone to watch. And Jared Wilson from Georgia, from the centers. I think he's going to blow up the combine. I think he's going to be in play for the Bears at 39 or 41.
I guess we didn't talk centers because I keep bunching them in as interior O-line. But are there any other centers you want to mention?
No, because I think I had Charles Grant at center, and we kind of talked about him.
Okay.
So I think that might be where he ends up. Marcus Mbao from Purdue, another guy who's going to probably do really well at the combine. But yeah, centers out. Not a lot of pure centers worth drafting this year. It's not a great center class.
No, it's
Mbao and Grant are both tackles that are going to potentially move to center, and then Jared Wilson's really the only pure center that I actually really like.
Yeah, there's only two centers I have with an above average athletic grade right now, and it's Jared Wilson and Jake Majors.
Yeah.
So I mean, and Jake Majors is barely like that's slightly above average. That's size athleticism combo. I think he has something there, but I don't think he's going to wow anyone. I'd be interested to see if a guy like a Jacob Bayer or Joey Lombard out of Arkansas State or South Dakota do anything, being smaller school guys who got a little hype coming into this process. I haven't seen much from them since.
Yeah.
But yeah, at center, it's not a there's no one I'm expecting to blow the doors off except for maybe Jared Wilson.
I would say Jonah Mineham might have a chance to do well at the combine. I think he's pretty athletic.
Yeah.
His arm length is really, really short. His weigh-in might kill him, but I think from an athletic standpoint, I think he has some movement skills. So maybe someone, if you really want the Bears to draft a center, he might be someone you might want to watch. But yeah, it's a day 3 guy, so I don't know too much about that.
Yeah. All right. Well, Steve, thank you for jumping on, talking some combine with us. Can you tell the people where to find you and your work?
Yep. Steve at CFC Bears on Twitter, Steve's Chicago Football Connection podcast on YouTube, and then on Tap Sportsnet for all the written articles.
All right. Thanks, Steve. Thank you guys for watching, listening with us, and make sure you bear down.
Bear down.